Also, Chris, if you get a chance, could you enable screen sharing for me?
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that before your item.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, I got you on that.
Thanks.
Thanks, Drew. All right, everyone, let's go ahead and get things started. I'm sure we'll get some other folks logging in as we proceed, but I'd like to basically welcome everyone to the Planning Advisory Committee for the Sonoma County Transportation Authority. This is our February meeting. And let's go ahead and start out with introductions. So we're without a chair at the moment, so that's part of our agenda today. So I'll go ahead and keep us moving until we get to that point. So why don't we go ahead and start from the north of the county and move south with introductions. So Kevin, I think that's you.
Hi, Kevin Thompson with the City of Cloverdale.
Kim, I don't see Healdsburg, so I think we're to Windsor.
Oh, hi everybody. I'm Kim Vogue with the Town of Windsor. Morning.
Oh, there's Ellen from Healdsburg. Morning.
Ellen McDowell. I'm filling in for Scott Diven for the City of Healdsburg.
Great, welcome. Let's move to Santa Rosa.
Jessica Jones, City of Santa Rosa.
Sebastopol. Move to Rohnert Park and then Cotati.
Yeah, Jeff Beiswinger, City of Rohnert Park.
And JP Harris, sitting in for Noah House for City of Cotati.
And I saw John Jay from City of Sebastopol. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Do we have a representative from Sonoma, the City of Sonoma? Let's go ahead and move to Petaluma. And then the County of Sonoma.
I'm Cecily Condon. I'm with the County of Sonoma.
Good to see you. Let's move to our regional partners.
Ada Chan, ABAG MTC.
And Kruti Singh, ABAG MTC.
Jane, I think you count in there as well, right? So we have Jane Riley.
Jane Riley, Napa Sonoma Housing Collaborative. Thanks. I just took a bite.
Yeah, sorry.
Good job, Chris.
Let's go to SCTA RCPA. I'm Chris Barney with SCTA.
And I'm Tanya Narath with RCPA.
Drew Nichols, SCTA, RCPA.
Dana Trey with SCTA.
This is BC Caps, RCPA.
Catherine Stubbs with SCTA.
Adam Garcia. Oops, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Adam Garcia with SCTA.
Ross Clement, SCTA.
Great. I think I see Zoe from Smart on as well. And Jennifer Sedna, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm with the Town of Windsor.
Okay, great. Good to see you here. And I did see Steve Burrow from the public. Hi, Steve.
Hello.
All right. I think I made it through everyone, but let me know if you were not introduced and we'll take care of that. So moving through the agenda, as part of our announcements today, we have an announcement from MTC ABAG. So I'll go ahead and turn things over to Kruti.
Great, thanks, Chris. And hi, everyone. Thanks for squeezing me onto your agenda today. I do have a short presentation to share about our call that just came out on Tuesday for the parking management planning grant call, and then as well as the regional mobility hubs planning or construction grant call. Both are due Friday, March 31st. And I'm going to start with just some general information. So eligible applicants are cities, counties, transit agencies, and CTAs. And basically anyone who's or any agency that has demonstrated ability to work with federal funds and ability to meet timely use of funds and deadlines. We'll be holding a pre-application workshop with further details than what I'll go into today on Wednesday, March 1st from 3 to 4 p.m. The first half hour will be on the Regional Mobility Hubs grant call, it will provide an overview and answer questions. And then the second half hour will be an overview of the parking management planning call with Q&A. So the goal of the parking management planning grant call is to manage parking demand to reduce vehicle miles traveled and greenhouse gas emissions to advance other regional priorities consistent with Plan Bay Area. So there's two categories of grants available. The first category is for comprehensive parking management plans. So funding will be provided to develop a plan to identify parking related strategies to minimize new parking development and also maximize efficient use of existing parking resources. The second category funds parking management implementation studies. So apply to this category to conduct a specific study, analysis, or other planning task that's necessary to complete a parking or curb management capital project. Or a program that's ready to be implemented. So all projects must include planning in a priority development area or a transit-oriented community policy area. And all this and much more information is included in the grant guidance and the application form, which are found on the link at the bottom of this slide. And I will also post the link in the chat after I'm done. So the other call, as I mentioned, is for Mobility Hubs planning and construction. And the goal of the Regional Mobility Hubs program is to basically transform transit stations or stops into community anchors that offer a welcoming environment and enables travelers of all backgrounds and abilities to access multiple transportation modes. This could include shared scooters, bikes, cars, as well as transit, all in a cohesive space. Again, there's two categories of that are eligible for funding. One is construction, and then the second is planning and outreach. And again, the geographies are consistent with the planning call, the parking call. So the hubs must be located in one or more of the growth geographies, so transit-oriented community area, priority development area, or an equity priority community. And again, all this information is found on the MTC ABAG technical assistance portal, and I'll post the link in the chat box when I'm done. So, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to James on the parking management planning call, and then to me on the Regional Mobility Hubs planning or construction call. And again, I'll post our emails in the chat. So that's it for me. I'm happy to answer questions. And again, more detail will be forthcoming in the pre-application workshop.
A quick one, Kruti. I think I missed, what was the total amount available?
Yes. So for mobility hubs, construction is 31 million. For planning, it's 2 million. And then for parking management planning, it's 2 million. Total pot. For mobility hubs construction, the range is 500,000 to 3 million. Planning is up to 400,000. And then same thing for parking management. The max is 400,000.
That's my subtle hint as we talk about the PDA call for grants.
Yeah, I mean, these are connected to the growth geographies as well.
Great, thank you, Kruti. I don't see any hands raised. Does anyone have any questions or comments? You just answered the questions I had about the project amounts, so appreciate that. Okay, so if there are no questions or comments on that item. Thank you, Kruti. Really appreciate the information and encourage everyone to reach out to you or James if they have any additional questions. And there is a workshop on March 1st, it sounds like.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll put that into a chat in a second too. But yeah, thank you again for having me on. And we hope to hear from all of you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right, let's move on to the administrative part of our agenda. I do see quite a few additional folks have joined us, so welcome. We've made it through our introductions, so happy to see everyone here today. So the first item on our administrative agenda is approval of our meeting notes. So that is action, so we'll need a motion for that.
Motion to approve.
Thanks, Scott. Is there a second?
I'll second. This is Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff. All right. And as always, if you have any comments or corrections for the meeting notes, please let Drew or myself know about that. So our next action is to adopt our agenda along with the items on it. So again, we'll need action in a second for that.
So moved.
Okay. Thanks, Scott.
I'll second.
Thanks, Carrie. So moving down the line of our administrative items, the next item is the meeting schedule for 2023. There is a typo there. It's not for 2022. We've moved through those meeting dates. But if you click on the attachment there, you will see the scheduled dates for the PAC and all additional SCTA committees, along with our board meetings. So if there are no questions there, let's move on to our teleconferencing and Brown Act update. So I can provide a brief look at how we're planning on proceeding in the future with our PAC meetings. So for our next PAC meeting in April, we're planning on holding in-person meetings just because of the governor will not be extending the emergency changes to the Brown Act that have allowed us to meet remotely for the last 2 to 3 years. So because of that, we'll be functioning under the normal Brown Act requirements. So we will be holding in-person meetings starting in April. So we have done a little research on what teleconferencing options are available. So we are planning on holding hybrid meetings. So we'll have a Zoom link available. But if you're a committee member, we do request that you participate in person. If you're not able to, there are a few options available for remote participation. There are the traditional Brown Act teleconferencing requirements that can be followed, and this involves letting us know well in advance that you'll be participating remotely, that you post the agenda at your remote location, and that it's accessible to the public. So I've included some information on that in the agenda as well. So if you have any questions, please let us know. There are also some new options available through AB 2449. So there are 2 additional options to participate remotely based on this legislation. I would say that at least a quorum of members of the PAC will need to be present in person for us to take any action at the meeting, but there are a few different options which are summarized in the table in the agenda packet. But just very briefly, the 2 options are just cause remote participation options. They can include reasons like childcare needs, contagious illnesses, or official business travel. So you can take advantage of this 2 times per year. And then there are also emergency circumstance reasons for participating remotely as well. This is a little bit, the requirements are somewhat similar, but it basically means physical or family medical emergencies that preclude you from meeting in person. So in both of these cases, you need to contact Drew or myself as soon as possible and let us know this is happening. For just cause, no action needs to be taken by the PAC. But if you're taking advantage of the emergency circumstance option, the PAC will need to take action at the beginning of the meeting to approve that. So with that being said, we also will be providing a Zoom link that's available to the public. So that is a third option. If you're unable to participate remotely using either of those methods, you're welcome to participate as a member of the public, but you won't be able to take action on any items. So I would like to open it up for any discussion or questions, but just wanted to let everyone know kind of our plans for the PAC going forward. Yes, thank you. Please jump in.
I was just confirming where the in-person meetings would be held.
Those are at the SCTA offices at 411 King Street in downtown Santa Rosa. I guess that we haven't had that on our agenda for a while, but we'll be sure to add that.
Thank you. I'm late to the party anyway, but
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Any additional questions on that? And if you have any follow-up questions or comments, please reach out and let me know. All right, let's go ahead and move to our election of officers. So our ordinance number 3 requires that a chair and vice chair be elected at the first meeting of the PAC each calendar year. So officers must be members of the PAC, and there are no term limits. So our chair for 2022 was Brian O. Because of his change in positions and moved down to Petaluma, he's stated that he'll be stepping down as chair. And our vice chair was David Storer, who is retired. So we're without a chair and a vice chair at this point. So would like to open things up to the PAC for discussion and also for nominations and recommendations. And I would say that chairing the PAC, I don't think it really requires a lot of work. You know, I think the big piece is running the PAC meetings and basically taking a look at the PAC agendas and, you know, working with myself and the SCTA team on developing the agenda. So, but generally we take care of most of that on our end. But yeah, I'd like to open things up.
Well, I'm really disappointed that I can't nominate the new Petaluma housing director because that was my plan. So I don't even get the gratification of that. So that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, does anyone have a desire to step forward?
I would be reluctant just from Cloverdale because I may, you know, our associate planner may be attending. He lives in Santa Rosa. So that's just kind of my story.
Appreciate that.
Sounds like maybe Scott would like to be the chair, but doesn't want to.
I think there's actually a rule that the same jurisdiction can't do it 2 or 3 years in a row. So that's not actually a rule, but I don't think that we'll be able to do it again.
Roanoke Park could, Jeff.
I would be willing if I've been avoiding it for several years, so I would be willing to take my turn. So
Well, how about I will be willing to vice chair, just so that we don't have to sit in silence, and I can support Jeffrey in that.
Yeah, we need an motion. So is anyone willing to make the motion?
I'll make the motion. Thanks, Jeff.
Great. And can we get a second?
With JP, I'll second.
Great. Thank you. Looking forward to having you on board and lead the meetings, Jeff and Scott. So I'll reach out after the meetings and kind of give you a little bit of background. So appreciate that. Jeff, would you like to take over the meeting, or would you like me to keep
yeah,
running through
sure.
it? Okay.
I've got the agenda here, so I guess I can just go down the list. I believe we are up to item 3F, 2023 PAC work plan and work products discussion.
Yeah, and I can provide a little bit of information on this. Our previous chair, Brian, had requested that we have a discussion about potential discussion topics for 2023, and also if there's an interest in developing any work products. So I know we'll continue to bring SCTA items and items that we'd like you to weigh in on and we'd like to share, but like to add anything that the group would like to discuss as well.
I'd like to continue our BMT discussions. I know it's already on there, but I'm interested because we're having some problems with it. So that's something I'd like to see continue. I appreciate all your work on that, Chris.
Yeah, happy to keep bringing that back. Jeff, I would say maybe we can just keep thinking about that and agendize it next month to see if anything else.
Yeah, if there's no other ideas, I mean, I like the VMT idea too. We actually came up with we have a project that came in recently, and we're struggling with VMT as well, just kind of understanding how it all works. So, okay, if there's nothing else on that, we can move on to item 4, which is RCPA discussion and climate action. It looks like there's 2 sub items under there. So the first one is the proposed regulations on space and water heating.
Okay,
BC.
Thank you, Jeff. I will take it from here. Good morning, everyone. My name is BC Caps. I'm a climate change program specialist here at RCPA. I wanted to take just a couple of minutes this morning and provide an update on some proposed rules from the Bay Area Air Quality Management District that having to do with their proposed rules that have some implications for new designs for hot water heaters and furnaces. And I can explain a little bit. A lot of our work at RCPA is focused on reducing building energy, greenhouse gas emissions from multiple different sources. One of those key contributors is the appliances, many of the appliances we use in our homes and our buildings, and many of those appliances are currently powered or use natural gas and natural gas combustion and have greenhouse gas implications. And so, as I understand it, the Air Quality Management District does not have the jurisdiction to regulate CO2 emissions, which is oftentimes the metric or the pollutant coming from these that we think about in GHG and greenhouse gas emissions. But the Air Quality Management District does have the kind of the authority to regulate NOx pollution, and thinking about it as a main contributor to to smog and other air quality impacts. So they have the jurisdiction on both NOx and for particulate matter. And so the Air Quality Management District has two proposed rule changes that are coming up for discussion in the middle of next month. One of those they both have to do with looking at placing restrictions on the sale of natural gas furnaces, heat furnaces, and water heaters in the Bay Area market, phasing in, let's see, beginning in 2027, natural gas water heaters would no longer be allowable to purchase or install in the Bay Area. And starting in 2029, natural gas furnaces would not be allowable to install in the Bay Area. And so both of those, there's a major push then to attempt to convert those to heat pump technology, and instead focus all of our efforts on the installation of heat pumps and make that a mandatory requirement, or basically the allowable, infrastructure that could be installed. So RCPA is very much fully in support of these changes. We think it's kind of a fantastic kind of the next natural move with thinking about moving away from natural gas appliances. And obviously a number of the jurisdictions are also looking at building reach codes having to do with new construction. And there may be some efforts in the future looking at existing building reach codes that would have some of these same effects. But at least for now, the Air Quality Management District has these two rules proposed. We at RCPA are drafting a letter that we would present at the March 15th meeting at the Air Quality Management District. And we have three major points we want to make. And I wanted to let everyone on the call know about those and see if there's any other input on key points that might be important to you. So first off, in the letter, we really wanted to support these rules from the Bay Area Air District. Second, we really wanted to emphasize a point that had been made by PG&E in one of their previous letters, and that was having to do with the continued need for comprehensive building decarbonization. And these rules from the Air District do not impact cooking or fireplaces in any way. So those are still technically, but actually, let me leave fire. They do not include cooking or kind of the other heating elements having to do with natural gas. And so, so there are still exceptions. These rules will not be a complete coverage. So we wanted to highlight the need, the continued need for really a comprehensive 100% building decarbonization, because only by doing that, it really allows the utility to look at whole sections of the natural gas infrastructure that could be decommissioned at some point in the future. And if there are still a handful of homes that are still just using natural gas for their cooktops, it requires an incredible investment in the entire natural gas infrastructure just to keep that small use allowable. So we really want to advocate for comprehensive decarbonization across the board. Second, we really wanted to point out some of the social equity issues that this raises and continue to advocate for either funding or other resources that can be made available to allow individuals who do not have the upfront capital to make these changes or make some of the other changes in their homes, and then in some ways could then be left out of these changes and would therefore potentially be left stranded using some natural gas equipment with increasing prices going higher and higher. This is especially a case when there's the need to do an electrical panel upgrade that can often add a few $1,000s to a job. A lot of times at that point, a homeowner would actually make the choice not to do the upgrade, not to change anything, and would just continue using their older inefficient natural gas equipment. So we really want to highlight the fact of the need to really look at all income brackets and socioeconomic status and really to bring everyone along at once. And the third point we wanted to make in the letter is RCPA is the kind of the countywide lead for the Bay Area Regional Energy Network that provides a number of incentives, rebates and incentives for building upgrades for people to make. And they, BayREN, at least at this point, still some of the incentives are still allowable for natural gas equipment. That is a conversation that is happening within BayREN right now to reduce and eliminate those incentives over the course of the next couple of years. That was something that I think was already in line moving forward with BayREN incentives. And we just want to advocate again for kind of doing this, taking a coordinated approach so that as these new rules at the Air Quality Management District kick in, kind of basically that the incentive programs do not continue to fund equipment that is kind of not deemed the most environmentally beneficial. So those are the key points I wanted to have. I see at least one hands up and a couple comment in the chat I need to take a look at. My main intent today was really to let everyone know about these proposed rules and see if there were any other high priority topics that RCPA should consider including in our letter that we'll send off in the next 2 weeks. Our plan is to draft the letter. It would then be adopted by our board of directors at our March 14th meeting and then delivered to the Air District the next day. So I think that wraps it up for me and I can answer any questions.
Maybe I'll go. I'm fighting with my webcam, so hopefully it stays on. And I see Ada's message in the chat about PG&E issues, and that's actually something I wanted to bring up at this meeting today. So the town of Windsor has a large industrial project in process for which PG&E rejected their application for to confirm that they can provide power. They can't even confirm if or when they can provide power. And apparently this is happening other places, and I wanted to hear from other jurisdictions what the experiences are. Sonoma Clean Power has been trying to collect information, and the town is going to be meeting with Sonoma Clean Power to get a better idea of what's happening. But it's sounding like, especially from Ada's message, this is at least a regional, if not statewide issue. And it's interesting. I know BC, what you're working on and what the Air District's working on sounds like all targeted towards residential, not industrial, but the applicants' fallback plan so far, if they can't get PG&E to commit, is to have natural gas generators on a large project, which is the opposite direction we want to be going in. So maybe we can talk more offline, BC, especially maybe after we have this meeting with Sonoma Clean Power, and I can share some information with you. That's all I have.
Very good. I do want to acknowledge that issue, and I want to acknowledge it as a statewide issue. It came up on yesterday's statewide building decarbonization call of affordable housing projects, other projects that are being rejected because PG&E is refusing to make additional service upgrades to allow for the electrical equipment. I don't have a solution, but acknowledge it's an issue.
I'd add that on the Sonoma County side, we've heard of people getting these letters from PG&E stating that, you know, there's uncertainty or potentially no additional capacity until 2024 or 2025. However, in our official project referrals to PG&E, we don't get that same message. We've just been getting the boilerplate response that we've been getting for years, not acknowledging any new problems. So we know it exists, but it doesn't officially exist in our permitting, at least the ones that I checked. I checked probably a couple months ago. I think there was an article in North Bay Business Journal or something like that. So I did some research, and we haven't heard anything officially at the county.
Yeah, this is Jeff. I think that the one thing that we're hearing from new developers is that they don't really have an issue with just switching to all electric, because it in the end it probably saves the money because they don't have to build both an electric and a gas system. So there might be some reason to kind of differentiate between new development and then existing homeowners where you have to, you know, you're taking away something And you also have to make sure that the transformers or the electrical system can actually handle all this new electrical load. That applies for electric vehicles as well as everybody switching over to heat pumps. So eventually everything's going to blow up. So not to be too dramatic there, but anyway.
We also, just to add on, we also had an affordable housing project with, I think, like they were going to have 6 large PG&E transformers above ground in prominent locations. And so we were trying to work with them to get them underground. But with the tight timelines for the affordable funding process, it didn't work specifically because it was going to be an extra at least 4 months to get the underground transformers just because of supply chain issues, which is a real bummer. So we're stuck with the giant above ground transformers, which aren't good for wildfire issues as well. Anyway, sorry if I diverted the discussion a little bit too.
No, I think maybe to conclude, I think my take home from this is that RCPA, we are going to continue to support kind of the efforts of the Air District. We will be drafting this letter and sending it. This larger issue having to do with electrical capacity, system capacity, is a major issue kind of independently. And so that's something that I think I can work with Tanya, and we can circle back with our reps at our contacts at Sonoma Clean Power and PG&E and try to at least, if nothing else, at least try to understand what's going on better. So thank you.
Thank you. And BC, I did want to add that you also consider reliability in addition to the capacity. I know they go hand in hand, but as somebody that lives in the unincorporated area and has our power go out extremely frequently, but I can still make hot soup with a cup of tea or something with the natural gas. That's a pretty big disincentive to switch over.
All right, BC, if that's all you have, we can move on to item B, which is RCPA update. I suppose that's either you or Tanya.
Yeah, so I can start and then BC, if there's anything you want to add. So just a couple of quick updates. So BC presented the tree protection ordinance report to our board in February, and the board accepted the report. And so now we'll be looking at next steps or follow up from the report. So if any of you have an interest in pursuing any of the recommendations in a coordinated way, please let us know. Second update on our funding for climate initiative, which our steering committee recently renamed as our Climate Protection Initiative. So we all need to get used to a new name for it. But we did complete launching the 3 program committees over the last couple of weeks. The Buildings Committee was the last to meet, and it met last night. The recordings from these meetings will be posted on our website if you have an interest in listening to them, as well as meeting notes. We don't yet have the next meeting of the committee scheduled, although the Buildings Committee did agree on a monthly Wednesday evening schedule, so that can get posted. One of the next steps for the committees is to draft up some initial project lists to kind of start focusing the discussion in the groups on these project ideas and solutions in a more focused way. And then lastly, we are planning to host a community workshop on April 19th. This will be an evening meeting, and it will be all on Zoom, and it will be an opportunity to share with the community at large an update on the work of the committees and gather additional input. So those are my updates. BC, anything else that you want to add from RCPA?
No, our main focus has really been on getting these program committees up and running the last few weeks. And so I really want to encourage any of the jurisdictions here to either participate directly in those committees, or I don't know, we also have a local government input group, and I don't know if that group is going to be meeting on a regular basis, but just encourage all the jurisdictions here as this process unfolds over the upcoming months to stay involved and make sure that your priorities, the priorities of your local area, kind of work their way into our kind of our proposal for what may become a funding measure. So great, thank you.
Okay, if that's everything on that item, we're ready to move on to item 5, SB 743 VMT. It's back to you, Chris.
Yep, back over to the BMT. So yeah, just to provide a really brief background on this. So SCTA has been able to help provide a little bit of support with SB 743 implementation over the last 3 or so years, including VMT maps and summaries, coordinating the development of the VMT mitigation and reduction calculator. And I think we're to the point right now that I've been hearing that there's a need to look into some options for mitigating VMT impacts offsite. So OPR, as part of their guidance and other state guidance, has actually identified the possibility of looking into VMT banking and exchange programs as ways of offsetting VMT impacts at local project site locations. So based on that, I've been doing some research. I've actually included a executive summary from a document produced by Berkeley Law that kind of goes through the issues from a legal perspective and outlining options that they see. So, based on this research and work that our colleagues around the Bay Area are doing, I'm preparing a grant application as part of the Caltrans Sustainable Transportation Planning Grant Program. They actually have a technical subset of that program to look into developing a VMT mitigation, either banking or exchange program for Sonoma County. And just to provide a description of how these could work, a VMT bank or fee program would allow a VMT producing project to pay into a bank to pay for VMT reducing projects offsite, either within a given city or jurisdiction or somewhere else in the area that the bank is active in. So we'd be looking at a countywide bank in this case, or at least investigating that and other options. The exchange program would actually basically just match up VMT producing projects with VMT reducing projects. So just have a pre-identified list that, a developer with a project that can't mitigate its VMT on site could actually select one of those projects from that pre-selected list and help fund it to offset VMT. So right now I'm putting together that grant application. I've included a draft scope in the agenda and would really love to get letters of support for this project if it's something that you are interested in seeing, and am also interested in just polling the group to see if there's broad support for this activity, and to see if you'd be up for participating. I think if we're successful in getting grant funding, I'd want to set up a project TAC to kind of guide the process. And also we'd want to engage the PAC and each individual jurisdiction in this as well as we go along and identify projects and talk about options. So we'd love to hear any thoughts you may have on that. And yeah, I'll be reaching out in the next few weeks for letters of support if you're able to provide one for the grant application.
It appears that Steve, would you like to comment?
Yeah, I have a question. Chris, can you give a couple of examples of what a VMT reducting project would look like?
That's something, thanks, Steve. Thanks for that comment. So that's something that we'd have to develop, but improving transit stops or transit service, or providing non-motorized travel options and facilities, building bike and pedestrian lanes, things like that. So as part of the program, especially if we look more into an exchange, we'd want to identify those specific projects and calculate the VMT reduction benefits along with that as well.
Thanks.
Looks like JP has his hand up.
Oh, JP, you're muted.
Yeah, no, sorry, I just couldn't hit the button. I just have one suggestion, that this program both recognize and identify the countywide active transportation plan that's going on, and that I think would be a tremendous way to help fund some of the projects that are going to come out of that. The one thing that you said that made me maybe a little uncomfortable was that the developer would pick the project, and I think it would be better if we could have some sort of ranking criteria of projects. Obviously there'll be a lot of things to work through, and I would like to see a working group focused on this because I think it is a good idea. But anyway, those are some of my initial thoughts on that.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's exactly the type of feedback that we'll need to make sure this works for everyone, right? Yeah. Appreciate that, JP.
Chris, from the county perspective, we'd definitely be willing to, both participate and write a letter of support. And I do think that this is the perfect type of challenge that makes sense to, fall under SCTA. I mean, VMT is a regional problem. And I think that if, SCTA is the lead on it and all of the cities and unincorporated county are kind of, playing under the same umbrella, I do think it offers, more opportunities than if, each jurisdiction is kind of doing their own little VMT solutions. And I'm just excited to hear about that there's a grant. But if you could point to where in the 215 pages I should focus my attention, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, is that the Berkeley law document?
I'm looking at the Board of Directors agenda packet because I didn't see anything on the other one.
Okay. Yeah, I'll point you in the right direction,
Okay.
Scott. So in item 5 on the PAC agenda, there are 4 pages and it includes the scope and a couple pages of background as well. So I'll email you to make sure you have the information after this meeting.
Thanks.
Yep.
Chris, this is probably a ways out if it's going to happen at all. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, the idea is to get some funding on board, get a consultant to work with SCTA and you all to develop recommendations, whether or not that's an SCTA-led program or, a framework that you could use at the local level. So yeah, we're probably, if we get the grant, we'd be getting money next year. So it'd probably be end of 2024, 2025 until we see the recommendations. But in the meantime, I'm continuing to do research and I'm happy to pass any of that on as well. So this is something that is important. It's a need, definitely.
Proposal to amend our circulation element and do an EIR so that projects can move forward and we would have, I guess, mitigation or an overriding, whatever we're going to do. It sounds like we should just, this would not replace that, and we should just move forward with that.
And maybe come back in a couple of years if this could, meet some of those needs. Yeah, unfortunately, it'll take a little time.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, we have a couple of projects waiting for our general plan to be adopted because of the VMT issue. So anyway.
Yeah, I don't think Sonoma County's alone. I think everyone across the state's kind of dealing with this right now. So yeah, hopefully if we can make some progress on this, it could help.
Anything else on this topic? Or are we ready to move on to item 6? And that's goes to Adam. Travel model and land use forecasting.
Great, thank you, Jeff. Yes, hi, Adam Garcia, data analyst for transportation and climate at SCTA, RCPA. I'm excited to be kicking off our Sonoma County Transit Model discussion with you all. As hopefully most of you know, this is one of the big major kind of flagship products that the SCTA offers, just because it has such great value for you all as well in helping really perform a lot of the types of analysis on development projects, trying to understand how new development is going to be impacting our transportation network. So in order to be able to really answer accurately as a model can, and to answer those questions, we're going to be jumping on to kind of three main components of the modeling process. The first one is development tracking. Second one is looking at existing land use. And then the third is examining what the forecast land use conditions would be. So within each of those phases, we've kind of mapped out a rough timeline for starting that work. Development tracking, we're looking to begin next month in March and conclude sometime in July. So essentially what we're trying to understand is take a look at the inventory of existing development that we have, which you can see in the agenda packet. We have, as of right now, just a very simple web map that shows our inventory of development projects strictly for housing, I should mention also. And so over these next few months, I think, and overall with the project, what we're kind of trying to ask all of you is kind of a few different questions. One, where recognizing there's new ways to be able to review, capture this information through some online processes. There's also very acceptable, traditional methods, just looking at PDF maps or paper maps and being able to review some of this data. So for those of you who have kind of gone through this process, I guess one, it would be great to, hear any lessons learned that you might have had in the past. It's been a few years since we've done this, but just these are rather large undertakings to, be able to track all the development projects, both residential and non-residential, as well as getting the existing and forecast land use conditions up to date. So for one would be good, any lessons learned that you might have had in the past, and also any innovations we can kind of think of. And I've included a few in the agenda packet, just to think of how can we improve upon not only the data collection, but even maybe in some cases the data product as well. So just to go through these ideas real quickly, and then I'll open it up to conversation. To improve project tracking, I think there's kind of two things we can think about. One is really expanding beyond just tracking spatially the housing projects, but be able to have kind of retail, commercial, industrial, all the non-residential projects within our purview also, to be able to spatially map those out. The second point, I think, is that as we're gathering this information, some of our existing data, the APNs, which show the actual parcel boundary, are either missing or might be a little bit out of date. And so we're kind of stuck with just single point location. So if it would be more compelling to look at a map and be able to actually see, well, is this a small little rectangular parcel, or is this a large, maybe even multiple parcels being considered, how that might be helpful to have more accurate APN data. Jumping to the next section, existing land use, we're looking to start that up, the review process in July and go through December. This is really just trying to kind of start a base year of 2022 to say what were the existing land use conditions, and can we make sure that those are accurate for our travel model. The one innovation to consider for this is that I know ADUs are a lot more prevalent around the county and in the cities. Right now, they're considered multifamily attached dwelling units in the model, which match somewhat the travel behavior patterns, but obviously is a different housing unit altogether. So one question would be, is that, you know, worth tracking at this for the regional travel model, or is it okay to maintain kind of the ADUs as multifamily units if the travel behavior patterns are the same? And then lastly, future land forecasts. So this is looking out to 2050 and general plan build out. What would how would these land uses change from the existing conditions that we had just established? So that process will be starting in December, the last process of the three, and go through April of next year. So yeah, maybe I'll just stop there and just kind of bring back my questions, just thinking about any recommendations, lesson learned, or other innovations we can bring to the travel model. And open to any other questions as well too. Yes, Ada.
I'm wondering if any of the housing collaborative, Jane, I don't know if she's still on this call, is doing any data collection around the ADUs. I know in other counties, as part of the APRs, annual progress reports, they're starting to do a more refined tracking, and that might be able to help.
Yeah, we'll be talking about this a little later today, Ada. HCD is now requesting a review every 2 years, and we have been talking to HCD about whether a regional or sub-regional review would provide enough data, because face it, the first 2 years in the planning period, we're not going to be able to demonstrate that we're going to hit our numbers. There's just not going to be enough data. So that is a product that the collaborative intends to assist the jurisdictions with. What that looks like, we don't know yet, but we know they're going to need help.
Great, thank you, Jane.
Any other questions for Adam? Okay, well, thanks, Adam. And I think we're ready to move on to our standing updates. Does anybody want to jump in on that?
I can do a quickie. Oh, sorry. I know I'm not one of the jurisdictions, but just reminder that the PDA and the PPA call for proposals closes on at the end of this month, the 23rd of February. Also, we're kicking off an objective design standards, kind of development of an objective designs and development standards atlas. So if your jurisdiction is working on that or thinking about working on that as part of your zoning update, we're looking for TAC members that would like essentially get a preview and direct the consultant to come up with a product that works for them. So if you're interested, give me a call and let me know, or have one of your staff give me a call and let me know.
I'll go next for Sebastopol. Let's see, we have our the first phase of the Woodmark project. That's an 84 unit, 100% affordable. They are getting close and will likely be starting construction on the first phase, which is 48 units in March or April of this year. We are also planning on submitting a sustainable transportation planning grant, and Chris, Suzanne, I'll probably be in touch with you as well as Scott to see if we can get a letter of support. What we're looking to do is, given the fact that we do have 2 state highways running through our town, look at how we could potentially restructure and improve the highways, particularly in the downtown area for pedestrian and bicycle safety, as well as we know from the last travel model, actually, that there's a lot of pass-through trips. So trying to look at if there's ways to strategize about that. And so I think we would definitely want, I mean, we see the county as a stakeholder. Scott, as you guys are starting your general plan and the transportation component of that for growth in West County, as well as, yeah, obviously SCTA for coordination purposes, and likely the city of Santa Rosa as well, just because of the Highway 12 corridor in and out of town, and understanding that it's important to folks. Let's see, not sure what else is going on. This has been sort of a crazy month. We did submit our housing element to the state. It was adopted by council January 3rd, submitted January, the next Monday. I think that was the 7th or the 8th. I just checked in and they have not gotten to reviewing that yet. So, but are trying to get to that. So we'll see where that goes. We're also working on objective design standards. That's with Opticos, Ada. So I know that's your consultant for ABAG as well. They're also doing SB9 standards for us, and we're starting to get into the meat of that, which is exciting. We're also working on parklet design guidelines, and that will probably be going to our council in late March. So I think that's about it. Thanks. John, do we have anything to add?
No, I don't think so.
All right, well, since I can just give a quick update for Rohnert Park. We probably are right in line behind Carrie on HCD reviewing our housing element. We submitted that in late January. So we're waiting to get comments back on that. And since we have that kind of submitted, we are bringing back our general plan work efforts. So we are currently working on getting the draft EIR together. And so we'll probably be looking to put that out for public review within the next 3 months or so. And we've had the policy document completed for a couple of years now. So it's just kind of sitting on a shelf. So we're pretty ready to go and get that adopted this year, we think. What else do we have going on? Oh, we're working on our downtown site. We're preparing kind of a strategy to deal, since we own the property now. We have if those of you that don't know, the city purchased a 30-acre property in the middle of town next to our smart station to do a downtown project. And so since we own it, we have to do a surplus land action with HCD. So we're going to be submitting that to them within the next month or so as well. And it involves, we are probably going to be either going the 15% affordable housing route or the 25% affordable housing route. The 25%, if we provide 25% of the units as affordable, that gives us an exemption, which is pretty appealing. So we might be going that route, but we haven't really decided yet. And that would kind of pave the way to start working with potential commercial developers for our downtown project. So that's where we are with that. Other than that, we have residential development has slowed down a little bit, but they're still building a home here or there. And we have a couple of our big specific plan developers coming in and retooling some of their later phases to change them around to have a little bit different housing mix. So that we have that going on the entitlement side. And then on the building side, we have a couple of hotels still under construction. So I think that's about it for me. And then, then the casino, we're expecting them to come in with some new construction on that sometime this year as well. They're going to be adding a lot of square footage to their existing casino complex. That's all I got. Anybody, any of the other jurisdictions want to jump in?
I can jump in for Santa Rosa. Thanks, Jeff. We're also right behind you guys with getting our housing element reviewed by HCD. So the council adopted our housing element on Tuesday, and we will be submitting to HCD today with those signed resolutions. We did a preemptive early submittal about a week ago. I'm hoping to get them to look at the changes that we've already made based on their comments, and hoping to expedite this second round of review with the hopes of getting our certification. So fingers crossed on that. We are also working on finalizing our pro housing application, which we hope to submit next week. Work continues on our comprehensive general plan updates. We are in the policy development phase right now. We'll be doing a scoping meeting for our EIR coming up here in the next, I think, couple of weeks, working internally to develop our policies and look at what needs to come out from our current general plan and what we want to add to. And then we'll be going out for more community outreach on that. We're also going to be taking forward here shortly some amendments to our code based on recent changes in state law to various housing requirements. And in particular, we're taking an urgency ordinance for our ADUs in March. Trying to think, there's so much going on in Santa Rosa right now. On the development front, we've got over 4,000 units that are currently active right now, in process, either in process, under construction, or pending issuance. So we got a lot going on as far as new units under construction. We've got our council goal setting coming up here in March. So we'll be looking at potentially getting some new big work plans, including the potential for annexation of a significant amount of area in South Santa Rosa. So our council heard that in a study session a couple of weeks ago, and we'll be getting formal direction on whether they want to proceed with that or not at the beginning of March. There's lots more, but that's what I can think of right now.
I can jump in for Katati. Oh, go ahead, Kim.
Okay. Yeah, so Windsor has received its first round comments from HCD, which is a pretty short letter. So we're working on doing our revisions to resubmit, and we haven't decided if we're gonna have the council adopt first or after. Still working on that. We did submit a pro housing application on January 31st, and we're working on a affordable housing and sustainable communities grant application with Burbank Housing and the Kashaya Tribe as co-partners or co-applicants. This is centered around an approved affordable housing project that's for the Kashaya Tribe and with their tribal offices as well at the north end of town. Then the council considered a short-term rental ordinance last night and directed changes. And so it looks like they'll be adopting something at the next meeting on March 1st. And then on the construction side, it looks like we could potentially have a huge amount of construction going on at the same time downtown this summer, with a 5-story hotel with an underground parking garage, 4-story mixed-use building, 2 gas stations being basically raised and rebuilt from the ground up, and then 120 apartments at the north end of town. So it'll be a lot. That's what I can think of.
So for Katati, I think like a lot of the other jurisdictions, waiting on comments from on the housing element. We're also planning to adopt our Vision Zero action plan next week or the following week, end of February 28th. And we're working to update our Santero Way, which is our PDA right next to the train station. So looking to update that. We're reviewing responses to our request for proposals. We're also updating our downtown specific plan. A lot of this is to accommodate some of the changes in housing law. And then just on Tuesday, our city council approved our first cottage housing project for our cottage housing ordinance that we adopted basically allows people to double their density if they incorporate certain site design and building design elements. And this was a small project. It was just 4 units and 2 ADUs, but it was on a small 10,000 square foot lot. So it kind of demonstrated how we could make it work on small lots. And this is a lot that's it's about 400 feet away from the train station. So it's a kind of ideal spot to increase density. So that was pretty exciting for us because we adopted that in 2021 and we were hoping for an example project and that one came through. The big issue on that is parking. Our council still can't give up the desire to see lots of parking. And but that's probably what we spent an hour talking about was parking on that project. But other than that, yeah, things are kind of moving along here in Cotati. And I'm sure Noah had more to add, but he's not here. So that's what you get. Thanks.
One more quick thing from Santa Rosa. Ada, this is mostly for you. We're also working on our application for the PDA grant, and we'll be submitting by that February 23rd for a specific plan in South Santa Rosa.
2 apps or 1?
It'll be 1, and we'll be expanding our PDA to encompass the county's PDA down there. But it'll be 1 application from Santa Rosa with hopefully support that Scott's working on from the county.
Okay, any other updates? I don't think we've heard from Healdsburg or the county, but
I can give a very brief update on Healdsburg. Healdsburg's been really busy. We're managing our projects up at Saggio Hills, which is on the very north end of town. And then we have North Village, which is also on the north end of town, which has affordable housing, hotel, senior housing. That keeps us really busy. And then the Mill District project, which is towards the south end of town. And that one has an affordable housing component, which is almost finished. We've approved another affordable housing project behind Big John's, and that should be under construction shortly. Regarding the housing element, I'm not sure where it is. I'd have to defer to Scott on that. But I think that they are submitting shortly or have already. And I'm not sure on the comments back on that. Regarding BMT, the city of Healdsburg was chosen for personalized assistance. So we have our first meeting coming up on April 10th. So the city engineer and I will be spearheading that and hopefully get underway on some BMT.
all right, last call. And then I think we can move on to B, the SCTA board and planning activities report.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Those are just information items. So including.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Happy to answer any
Great.
questions though. The SCTA team's here if there are any.
Okay, not seeing any questions. Okay, I think we're on to item 8, public comments. Do we have any members of the public which would like to speak?
Not today.
Oh,
Good.
okay. Steve, you're disappointing us. So anyway, okay, well, I think with that, we're ready to adjourn. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Do we take a motion to adjourn for this? I guess we want to be somewhat formal.
Jeff, usually at the chair, you just have the right to do so.
Oh, okay. Well, then I will use that power to adjourn this meeting. See you guys next time.
Thanks. Thanks, everyone.